Hello everyone, it's Dr. Tom O'Brien, and I'm with my good friend Christa Orecchio. Hi Christa.
Hi Tom.
Hi. Christa is a nutritionist and the creator of The Whole Journey. And she has some information that I think is going to be of value to a lot of you. It's a condition that I had back in the 1980s, and that is an excessive overgrowth of Candida. So if that's something that you've thought about or wondered about, you're going to get a lot of great information from Christa. And first, Christa, can you tell us what is a Candida overgrowth?
Sure. Well, I know that we all have Candida, a yeast in our system, and a healthy amount of it is fine, but it's when we get an overgrowth to where it turns pathogenic and it really starts damaging our intestines and really the whole of our health, because we know if our digestive system isn't functioning great, then the thyroid isn't functioning great, the adrenals aren't functioning great, we can't think straight. And so a lot of people are struggling with Candida, they don't know about it. Even one full spectrum course of antibiotics without repopulating and doing your gut cleanup work can give you Candida, which you know, you had it. I had the worst case of it, which is why I became an expert in it. You know, you have to figure that out to heal yourself first.
You know, that was a problem for me back in the 80s, that we'd read about this Candida craze. And I'd see many patients that seemed to have Candida overgrowth, and the recommendations would help them a lot. But then there'd be other doctors who would say it's all nonsense, there's no such thing, there is no Candida in your thyroid, and they do biopsies and say there's no Candida when we look at biopsies and things. But I just realized while you're talking, this whole world of enteric neuroscience has come out in the last 7 years of how the environment of the gut affects the function of the entire body, and that the messages that are sent from the bacteria and the yeast in the gut go out to the entire body and dictate how our heart functions, how our brain functions, how our thyroid functions, that it actually controls. The environment of the gut controls so much of what's going on in the rest of our bodies. This may be the pathway by which Candida has had such a systemic effect for so many people.
It exactly is the pathway, and you're right that the belief system is now shifting. Back when I had it, and I would talk to my MD, and he said, "Oh, in your world, that doesn't, it might exist, but it's not really something that we address."
Yes.
And the thing is they would just give you diflucan or an antifungal, and whatever is happening, whether it be a vaginal yeast infection or thrush, goes away. But invariably, it comes back within a couple of months because you didn't get to the root cause, which is to eliminate it, to rebuild the gut, to take care of the organs and glands that were then affected afterwards.
Yes.
So how do you know if you have Candida? You have to check for symptoms. And so the single biggest symptom, which I think you would agree with me, is intense, crazy sugar cravings, carb cravings. You want to go out in your pajamas at 11 o'clock at night to get some sweets at 7-Eleven or something like that.
Yes.
But definitely all manner of digestive issues and mental fog. I find a lot of eczema, psoriasis, and skin issues.
Now, why carb cravings?
Why carb cravings? Because Candida lives on sugar,
Exactly.
Candida lives on yeast, and so you have this opportunistic organism. The chips had to be low in order for this to implant and stay and really imbalance the microbiome and the health of the whole body. And so usually it wants to stay alive and it's going to crave sugar. It's a craving that's bigger than you because it wants to stay alive.
Yeah, that's part of the beauty of the message that you carry out that I've seen, is that you have such a strong emphasis on healing the gut and creating a healthy environment in the gut. That I have said since I came out into practice that Candida can go systemic, but its home base is the gut.
Yeah. You
always have to address the gut, because if you don't, if you just address the vaginal infection or the athlete's foot, the fungal infection on the feet, which always comes from the gut.
Yeah, 99% of the time when you eradicate it from the gut and you do your GI repair, all other areas take care of themselves.
Perfect. That's just perfect.
So I have a challenge for your people, an easy, free, do-it-yourself at-home test so they can see if Candida is a problem for them.
Oh, cool.
Because as well as I do, we run stool tests, we're looking for antibodies and blood tests, and that can be expensive, and those are great tests. But a lot of people, they take 2 or 3 years before they get around to running it. And so there's an easy free test you can do at home where you get a glass of water. Have you heard of this before?
No.
Okay, you get a glass of water.
I'm hearing it for the first time.
For the first time. Yeah. You fill it halfway, about halfway, regular tap water, first thing in the morning, before you eat or drink anything, before you brush your teeth. For 6 days in a row, you work up a dime-sized amount of saliva and you spit in the glass. And so you want to watch it. You don't have to scrutinize it, but you want to check it out 2 or 3 times over 45 minutes. If it grows legs, then Candida is out of balance within your body. If it sinks, I say there's more of them than you, and gut repair is your first order of business. And if it stays floating on top, Candida is not a problem. And there's just 2 caveats to the accuracy of that test, is you cannot be consuming any dairy products while you're taking this, because dairy thickens the mucous membranes and can give you a false positive.
So how long of no dairy before the test?
So I would say no dairy for about 10 days. A few days before, definitely, and then test for 6 days. And make sure that you're hydrated, because dehydration can also give you a false positive. You want to drink about 1 liter of water, 34 ounces for every 50 pounds of body weight. Good quality water, make sure you're absorbing it. And I'll tell you, Tom, I've run these tests in tandem with stool test and this, and it's always accurate. And so it's something that's helpful for people to do at home of, okay, I can advance my health. And when the Candida goes away, the spit changes.
So we do this for 6 days in a row?
For 6 days in a row.
And on the first day, if it grows legs, is that enough, or do you need to keep doing it?
I like to get the accuracy just to really take the whole 6 days. Yeah.
And is this an anecdotal test that you've discovered, or was there some medical papers published on this?
There's not medical papers. It's an anecdotal test, yeah.
Which can be extremely valuable for a home test.
Which has been, yeah, extremely valuable for a home test.
It gives you a good clue,
yeah,
a good indicator in the right direction.
Exactly, and you can always run the blood panel, you can always run the stool panel or a saliva panel, you know, and send that off to a lab. But I've had just so much success. I've been working with this for the last decade and taking people through Candida cleanses, and so it's a good test to check out.
Well, that's really great. That's really great. You know, I have a protocol for children when they have any type of bacterial or fungal infections. There's a a liquid herbal product. I have them put it in water and gargle and spit. And I would say, and when you gargle, and I want you to spit. They
love that, right?
Kids love it. Kids love it. So you can test your children for this also, to spit in the water. So
yeah,
very cool.
A lot of kids are having Candida these days because of the antibiotics, the food supply, the litany of things that the environmental toxins.
This is never going to go away, this concept that for some people, an excessive growth of Candida may be the problem that's keeping them from attaining the health they want, because it's an opportunistic organism, meaning if there's an opportunity, it's going to take over. It's a normal part of our intestinal environment, but if there's an opportunity because of too much exposure to antibiotics, which knock out the good bacteria, then the Candida, the yeast, can flourish right up there.
Exactly.
Are there any other triggers besides antibiotics that may help to create the environment for Candida to grow?
Well, sure, your trigger as a baker way back in the day, where you had so much of the bread and consuming things you're sensitive to, because not only were you baking and having bread and sugar, but you have this high sensitivity to wheat, and yet if you're consuming that food every day, you're basically creating leaky gut or intestinal permeability. You're damaging your immune system. You're now giving a prime environment for any type of pathogen that wants to stick around, to stay and grow and thrive. Stress is such a huge problem in our society, and the more we deal with chronic prolonged stress, the lower our immunity, the higher propensity for leaky gut. And
some of the studies on stress show that the hormones that you produce, your stress hormones, reduce the good bacteria in the gut, which then creates the environment for opportunistic organisms to flourish.
Yeah, you can't produce enough HCl to kill the bad guys. Yeah, so it's all interconnected, and the way that I approach killing Candida is incredibly comprehensive and is never just about Candida or just about the organism.
Well, that's just marvelous. So for any of you that have been thinking, you know, there's something, it's not quite right yet, I don't quite have a handle on this, this may be something you want to look at. Christa, anything else would you like to say? Any last words about Candida and about this protocol?
You know, I'm a big proponent of give the body what it needs, take away what it doesn't need, and it will heal itself. We use food as medicine, and life can look so bright for so long. And so, yeah, I think there's a link that you've included that has a 30-minute show that I did that really talks in detail about how to eradicate Candida if you want more information on that.
That's really perfect. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing this information.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.